Hi there, my name's Josh King, and welcome to day 15 of the Azure Advent Calendar 2019. I've been working on a Christmas-themed PowerShell module recently, but I've been doing it all offline, and doing things like running my tests and builds manually. So I've decided it's well past time that I need to wrap some more modern smarts around how I'm working, and I'll be doing that with Azure DevOps. So I'm already signed into Azure DevOps, and I'm going to start by creating a new project for this module. Now my module helps to manage Secret Santa events, and I've given it the name Covert Kringle, so I'll use that name for my project as well. And then I'll give it a short description, just letting whoever sees this know that it is to help with those Secret Santa events. Let's make those capitals. Now, the default when you create a new project is to make it private, so that only you and those who you give access to are able to view the contents. However, I want everyone online to be able to see my code and the pipeline sitting in behind them, so I'm going to make mine public. And then I'll go ahead and create. So I'll be using Azure DevOps to completely manage the full lifecycle of my code, starting with obviously the code. And we'll do that using a repo. So over on the left, I'll choose repos, and I can see that it's currently empty. In order to get some code back up into Azure DevOps, I'll clone it into VS Code. Open it up, and it's going to ask me where I want to store my code. I've already got a DevOps folder available, so I'll select that. And then it's cloned what it could, which is effectively nothing, and it'll ask us to open it up. So I'll do that, and we see we've got an editor open in the correct folder, but we've got nothing there yet. So what I'm going to do is reveal this in Explorer, and then I'm going to dump my existing code that I've been working on offline, into this directory. And I can see that's instantly popped up into VS Code. So this module is fairly standard. We've got our PSM1 file, which loads in some scripts with the ability to have both public and private functions. However, I'm only using public, and I have a bunch of public functions. I've also got very rudimentary pester tests written. Obviously, more work needed there. All it's doing is making sure that my module types come through correctly and that there's the correct number of functions being exported. And I've also already got a build script written. And this does everything from analyzing my code with PS Script Analyzer to make sure that what I'm committing meets a certain bar of quality. And then it tests my code, running my tests file there using pester. And then it compiles or builds my module, and that might be a weird concept for some in PowerShell, but effectively what that's doing is taking all of these PS1 files and rolling them up so that they're only in my PSM1 file when I ship my code to someone else. This helps improve the time it takes to import your module, while allowing you the ease of maintenance by having these separate while you're developing on it. And of course the final step is then publishing out to the gallery. Now I've been doing this all manually so far, and we're going to start using Azure DevOps to do that a bit more smarter. First we need to get this code up to Azure DevOps, and we'll do that by committing it. Right, so I'll give it a short message and commit it. So now that I've committed that code, I need to go ahead and push it. And as soon as that's done, we'll be able to head back to Azure DevOps, refresh, and we can see my code is now available. So before we jump into pipelines, I'm going to be using a multi-stage pipeline here, and that's currently an experimental feature, so we're going to have to make sure it's turned on. You can click the cog with the small person icon behind it and head down to, well, it's right at the top, Preview Features. And what you want to make sure you've got turned on is multi-stage pipelines. I've already got it enabled, so I'll close that and head down to pipelines. So obviously I don't have one yet, so I'll go ahead and click Create Pipeline. And it's going to ask me where my code is. Obviously, we just uploaded it to Azure repos, so I'll click that. And it's picked up my repo that's sitting inside this project. And I don't have an existing YAML file for this, and we're going to create a new one now. So I'll click Start a Pipeline. And then I'll just clean it up a little bit because we're not going to need most of what's already in there. I'll leave the trigger. Basically, this means the pipeline's going to run whenever something's committed to the master branch. And I'm going to remove everything else. So I mentioned that we're using multi-stage pipelines. We're actually going to have three. We'll have QA, which is where we do our analytics, our analyzing and our testing. Then we're going to have a build stage, which is where we compile the module and then retest it to make sure that compiling it didn't break anything. And then our last stage is going to be uploading it to the PowerShell gallery. So, I'm just going to quickly outline my three stages. First is QA. Then we've got build. And then we've got the PowerShell gallery. So let's start in QA. All of these are going to be running on the latest Windows image. Which you can easily reference by calling Windows-latest. And actually, to save time going forward, I'll just quickly copy that into all my other stages as well. Right, back to QA. We now define the jobs that are going to happen inside this stage. And we're actually only going to have one job, which means we could probably omit the jobs classifier, but I'll leave it there anyway. So our first job is analyze, and I apologize if my spelling isn't the best here. So our first job's analyze and test. Just to make that look nicer, let's give it a display name. There we go. Now we're going to have a series of steps inside this job. And we'll use the assistant to make it easier to populate these. So I've already got my build script there, and all I'm going to be doing really is referencing that script. So I need a PowerShell task, and it is here. And I'm going to set this to inline, and then I can write out whatever arbitrary PowerShell that I want to execute. So here I'm going to reference my build.ps1 file, and this is my analyze step. So I'm literally just using the -analyze switch and click add. So that's added the YAML for that task into my YAML file. Now the only thing extra I want to do here, just to make things look nice, is give this a display name, otherwise it's just going to show up as PowerShell. And I want to be a little bit more descriptive than that. So this is going to be run ps script analyzer. Now, I'm not going to need that again. Not yet, anyway. I am going to create a new PowerShell task. And this one is running Pester, which is the testing framework for PowerShell. So I'll change my display name to run Pester. And then instead of analyze, this is test. So that's our entire QA our QA stage done, and I've just noticed, thanks to the squiggly line here in the integrated editor, that I've done something wrong here, and it's because this should be steps rather than step singular. So that's QA done. Now we look at build. So this one here is also going to have the same job, and display name, and then steps. So I'll grab that and pop it down here. This time, however, the job is simply compile, and we'll call this compile covert Kringle. Now we have steps to perform. So once again, I'm calling on my build.ps1 file. So I'll grab the task that we used earlier. And this time, it will be compile module. And instead of test, it is compile. Now once we've compiled once we've compiled my module, I'm going to want to run Pester again. This is just to make sure that the act of compiling my module hasn't broken anything. So instead of retyping anything, let's just grab the same block of code again. And I've got some smarts in my Pester tests to make sure that it tests the compiled module if that's available, and if the compiled module isn't available, it tests the uncompiled one, and we'll see that in the output once we run this. Now, this is the stage where I want to publish my test results, and this allows you to see in the web interface what the results of your Pester tests are, other than just pass or fail. So I'm going to open my assistant again and look for test results. And there's a task here called publish test results. So I'll choose that. And you've got a list of options to choose for your format. I'm using in-unit, which was defined as an option in my build script. And then I need to tell it what to look for as far as the output of my test files. And I've defined that as testresults.xml. So I'll add that in. And that's perfect. So the final thing I'm going to do is now that I've compiled my module, I need to bundle that up as an artifact and upload it for later stages to use. This just means that later stages, like my publish one to the PS gallery, doesn't need to recompile the module. Instead, it just downloads the artifact. So there's a shortcut for doing this rather than using the publish. So there's publish pipeline artifacts. There's a shortcut to using that. So if I hide that, there's a shortcut to that which is simply called publish. And then you tell it where to grab the module and where to grab the artifact files and what to name it. In this case, I'm using the same name for both because my module builds into a folder called Covert Kringle. So I'm going to end up having an artifact called covert kringle, and it's in a directory called covert kringle. And that's everything for my compile step. Now my last one is publishing to the PowerShell gallery. Once again, I need the jobs stuff. And this one is let's call that release PS gallery. All right. So now we've got our steps, and we need to start working on how we upload to the PowerShell gallery. So the first thing we need to do is download that artifact that we'd just uploaded. And there's another shortcut. Rather than download pipeline artifacts, you can do download, and it helps if I put the space in. And then the options here are basically saying none, which blocks automatic downloading if that were enabled, or I can say current, which downloads any artifacts that have been uploaded in the current pipeline. So we've got that. And now we need to publish to the gallery. So I'll grab a PowerShell block again, because we're just referencing my PS1 file, and we'll call this publish. And this is so we're going to have to give a we're going to have to specify a API. We're going to have to specify an API key here to authenticate us on the PowerShell gallery and allow us to actually publish this module. We're going to do that with we're going to do this with a variable. So I'll create a new one and I'll keep this secret. Now I need to find out what name I'm referencing for this variable. So if I check my code, I can see that I'm using NuGet key there. And NuGet key is using the user NuGet key environment variable. So I can define that on my local machine and it all works fine. But in order to get that in Azure DevOps, what I need to do is come over here and go user dot. Sorry, I think I just... Yep, I wrote that right. So you see inside my script I reference this as all uppercase and with an underscore. But when I'm doing it here, I can use whatever case I want and I use a dot instead of the underscore. It's just one of those weird things where when you translate this into PowerShell, you've got to make some adjustments there. But now I need the value. So let's head to the PowerShell gallery. And I'll sign in. Way too many accounts. Oh. How about I don't log myself off, and instead let's go to a different browser. Alright, so now let's try signing in again. Okay, so now that I'm in, I go up to my name up the top and choose API keys. And I want to create a new one. So this will be specifically for Covert Kringle. And it's going to expire in a year, meaning I'm going to need to remember to come in and update this later. Right, we can push new packages and new package versions, but I'm only going to allow it to do this for packages that meet a specific pattern, and that's simply going to be this one module. So if this API key happens to leak and I don't revoke it, you're only going to be able to change that one module with this key. Let's go ahead and create. And I'll copy that key and bring it over here to Azure DevOps and paste it in. And you'll notice that because I preemptively clicked keep this secret, it's automatically hiding it. I can see it if I want to by clicking that, but I don't. And here's what I was talking about with the name. That's the name there, and in order to use it within PowerShell, we use environment user underscore NuGet key. So click OK, click Save. We've now got our variable. It's got access to the PowerShell gallery. And assuming I haven't mistyped anything, we should be good to go. So I'll click Save and Run. And it automatically commits with Setup CI pipeline. And it's going to commit directly to the master branch. So I'll click Save and Run. And fingers crossed, this works first time. So we can see my 3 stages. And if I look at jobs, we can see the jobs inside each of those stages. So yes, we overbaked this a little bit. We could have had all of these as jobs inside one stage. Or we could have merged analyze and test and compile into one stage and then have release as another stage. But doing it this way was a good excuse for a little bit of a demonstration. Now if we click into this, we'll be able to see the actions get taken in sequence. So we can see that it's up to running PS Script Analyzer. And it looks like my code was at least meeting a minimum bar there. Then it's going to run Pester. And you'll see part of what it's doing is installing the Pester module and PS Script Analyzer if they're not available on those pool VMs. Or specifically in the case of Pester, I upgrade it if it's an older version. And you can see here that it tested the development module. That specifically means that it didn't test a compiled module, which we should see in a moment. And we can see that my 2 tests successfully ran and passed because of the plus signs. So now we're on to build. We successfully compiled the module and we're running Pester again. And in a moment we should see output that says ran against or tested compiled module. Just update the output there and we can see testing compiled module and it's passed. Now that that's passed, we can actually go back here and we have a tests tab now. And we can see that we had a total of 2 tests and 2 of them passed. So if there were any failures here, we would be able to see, say if 1 out of the 2 failed, we would have a 1 and a 1, and we'd be able to drill into things and find out why. So our build succeeded, we can see 100 tests passed, and we've got 1 artifact. And when you start clicking around mid-pipeline, sometimes you see weird things. But if I have a look at my artifacts, you can see it's been named Covert Kringle, which is what we defined in the YAML file. And we can see the contents is just 3 files, my PSD1, my PSM1, which actually now contains all of my functions, and a README file. We'll download this just to have a quick peek inside to see how it looks. So as you can see, my PSM1 file has function, next function, and then all the way at the bottom, we export all the module members, and we've got a working function. So let's go back. Oh no, it looks like we had an issue on publishing to the gallery. Parameter cannot be found that matches the parameter name, publish. That is an issue. So let's have a look at our code. And that's because it's not publish, it's release. So how about we fix that? Because we're working in Azure DevOps, we've now got a Git repo, and I can pull any changes to my code. And if I go back to here, I can now see that I've got this Azure Pipelines YAML file, and I can work on it inside my preferred editor. So if I scroll all the way down, we can see publish. This should be release. And I'm going to change that. I've committed that. I need to push it back up to Azure DevOps. And now, because we've just committed to master, what we should see is that we've automatically got a new build happening. So we're in for about another 2 minutes here while it catches back up, because it's going to have to go through each of the steps of testing, building, uploading, and then releasing again. But we'll just follow it through like we did before. Now, if I was doing this for real, or longer term at least, I'd probably have different conditions set on the release for PS Gallery, because at the moment, any commit is going to push a new release or attempt to push a new release to the PowerShell gallery, but it's going to fail because it's going to try and push the module with the same version number, and the NuGet feed's not going to like that. So I would have something, I would probably have some sort of task in there or a gate of some description to say only push if the version number's been incremented. Or ideally, I should protect my master branch and only run this on pull requests into the master branch. And then of course I should be doing my work on a development branch. But that's a little bit out of the scope of this demo. So we've run our first round of tests, now we're compiling. And the compiles worked fine, that's good. While that's working away, how about we check that covert kringle isn't already on the gallery. Good, so we've got 0 packages. In a moment, that should jump up to 1 package. Right, we've compiled, we've published our pipeline artifact, and we're just about to start releasing it to the gallery. Assuming I haven't done another silly typo. Right, downloading the artifact, publishing to the gallery, and that says it's completed. So, let's head back to Chrome, refresh this and see how quickly it comes through. Now there's all sorts of content delivery things happening with the gallery, so let's have a look at publish packages. No, I'm not seeing it. I might just be being a little bit impatient. It says it published. Well, I'm not quite sure why it's not showing up there yet. Let's just have a quick read through. So I've got build.ps1 release. And if I look at my build, we have the module name and we have our NuGet key. The path is module name, so that should be correct. That might be my issue. I think I'm looking too far down the directory structure. However, if that's the case, I would have expected an error. Let's just check Chrome one more time. Okay, what's it going to hurt? Let's give it a try. Right, we'll push this one more time. I am going to pause the video and I'll cut back in once this pipeline run is finished and we'll see if we have any better luck this time. Alright, we're back. It's been a couple of seconds for you, but a little bit over half an hour for me. I had a few issues there to correct, and we'll quickly go through some of them. But first, let's find out if this has actually worked. So my pipeline's now finished, and publish gallery has completed, and I've got some output there saying it's been published to the gallery. So let's head back to Chrome, and we'll refresh this. Fingers crossed, we actually get some output this time. Fingers crossed. Alright, let's do it this way. If we go directly to the page, there we go. So our module's online. It's been deployed to the PowerShell gallery, all automatically. Awesome. So as for the issues that I was working through. The first issue was, remember when I got confused between the words release and publish? Turns out I got confused on that a few more times than I'd thought. So if you remember this build.ps1 file from earlier, this here and that all said release. Sorry, it all said publish. But my switch was actually release. Meaning, when this said publish is present, publish wasn't present, so it didn't run any of this code. And when I said I would expect to see an error, I didn't see an error because the code just outright wasn't running. Hence why that step was finishing so quickly. Second issue was, now that I'm using that shortcut to download my artifacts, it's putting it in a location that I'm not used to. So the path I was referencing wasn't correct anymore. Instead, I've used this pipeline workspace environment variable, which puts me at the right root location, and then I use a backslash and the name of my artifact. And that's put me into the correct location to grab my module. But with those two things complete, we're now all online. And as a final test, let's pull up a PowerShell window. And let's install this new module and see that we get it from the gallery. First, let's make sure that it's not already on my system. And thinking about it now, it might be, but it'll be in one of my test locations. No, good. So, install module, covert Kringle. It's going to ask me if it's okay to install something from an untrusted repository, because by default, the PowerShell repository is set as untrusted. So, yes. Let's go ahead and install that. It's pulling it down from the internet. And now I've got it available on my system. Awesome. So that was a really quick tour through using Azure DevOps as an end-to-end solution for managing your PowerShell modules. I hope that's been interesting. There's a lot more to this topic than what I was able to cover in 30 to 40 minutes. So if you've got any questions, reach out and head to AzureAdventCalendar.com to see more videos about Azure that's coming out this month. Cheers.